Hello everyone, good afternoon. My name is Flavio Santos and welcome to the 13.0 Café Scientifique with a team, revenue management and the new challenges for the hospitality industry. And today our guest is Mr. Laarmans. Welcome here to our school. And first let's start from the beginning, right?
Sure.
A little introduction, tell me about your company, how is your everyday life in the InterContinental group, and about the InterContinental group itself.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for having me here. Yes, my name is Ruud Laarmans. I think the pronunciation can only be done in the Netherlands, where I'm from. It's a bit of a local name, so to say. I've been here in Germany, in Berlin, since 2012, with the IHG, so InterContinental Hotel Group, since 2017. In revenue management, quite a bit of time already. I think my first revenue position I started back in 2008. IHG, InterContinental Hotel Group, is one of the bigger hotel chains in the world, so to say, with over 6,000 hotels worldwide. So we have properties basically from Dublin up to Tokyo, everywhere around the world. Our head office is based in Denham, in the UK. And yeah, as I said, hotels are divided over with several brands over the Americas, Asia, everywhere. We're a franchise company. We discuss that also in a bit of a later point, but that's important to consider. doesn't necessarily mean that all the hotels are franchised. For example, I'm the exception. I'm working for hotels managed directly by IHG. Here in Berlin, we are looking after 4 hotels. InterContinental, Berlin, 558 rooms located in the city west. Big conference facility up to 2,000 persons. So that is our big conference property, so to say. We're also looking after Regent Berlin. Regent Berlin is a 5-star luxury hotel located in the Charlottenstrasse, Gendarmenmarkt area in Berlin Mitte. Yeah, as I said, 5-star luxury, so 150 rooms, 45 suites. And the third hotel we're looking after is the Crown Plaza Potsdamer Platz, Kreuzberg location, 256 rooms. And then we have the Indigo Hotel, QDAM, City West, with 81 rooms.
Very good.
Yeah. So as you have heard, we have different brands with IHG. The most famous one, I think, is Holiday Inn. Holiday Inn, you see them everywhere around the world. Crown Plaza, we have a lot. InterContinental, of course. Regent, Indigo. So we have several brands in the categories from 3 up to 5-star luxury hotels. Yeah, so that is a bit about myself. What am I doing?
Wow, this I'm first things first. I'm impressed that you know all these numbers in your head, and as you see, it's a revenue management position. We should know all these numbers by heart, right?
Yeah.
And tell me a little bit more, us a little bit more about the working culture. How is the working culture about InterContinental Group?
InterContinental Group being all over the world, so we are a very international company. Nationalities also in the hotel here in Berlin. I think we have at the moment 35 different nationalities working there. And our attitude is basically, okay, we don't care where you're coming from, but we just like to work together and make our guests happy. Basically, that is our motto, and it's the most important thing. Working in hotels, we like and we have to get things done, right? Yeah. We serve food, rooms, meetings, events. So in terms of culture, there's a really can-do and making things possible attitude, I would say. And that's also one of the reasons I've been in hospitality all my life. Not always the nicest thing, but you never know what can happen, and things can become very surprising or changing on a daily basis. But yes, we like to be international. We like to be open-minded. We like to know different cultures, different people, and at the same time get the job done and make sure our clients and our guests are happy.
Very good. And we all know InterContinental based on these services as well and the level of service as well. But something about this moment that you have told us that we are very open, but at the same time we're very professional, and most importantly, we don't know how it's gonna happen, right? And my next question came in this moment when you said, what are the main challenges that you see for the hospitality market in general, specifically in general for the hospitality and specifically for InterContinental?
I think that after 2 years of COVID impact, so to say, we didn't have really, the majority of the challenges that we were seeing were not new, but the COVID time was just processing and making everything faster as a multiplier. For example, hospitality, it has been very difficult in the recent years to attract new talent, new colleagues and new people. Very specifically in the pandemic, in Germany we had a system with Kurzarbeit. So Kurzarbeit means that basically you could, if there was no work for you, you stayed at home and the government was compensating your salary up to a certain level. I had a team, for example, in reservations of about 7 persons, and when we did not have a lot of business, after a couple of months they all left us because they said, Ruud, listen, we don't know what is going to happen, and there are so many other industries that are looking for people, so they switch industries, so to say. So we already had the challenge in finding talent, finding good people to work with us. And after the COVID period, so to say, so basically I will say since April 2022, we were back in business completely. And then guests wanted to travel again. Business, private, didn't matter. And we had to be ready, but we were still building up our new teams, looking for new staff. So that is absolutely one of the challenges that we are dealing with. So what can you do? Berlin has a lot of hotels and everyone is having the same challenge. So make sure as an employer that you are the most attractive one to work for. Make sure that as an organization that people like to work for you. And in that matter, InterContinental Berlin has a very good reputation. So we benefit from that, but we also have to make sure that this will continue as such. Hospitality, hotel business is a very traditional industry, right? We have hotels since anyone can remember. And we, in that matter, have always had a very traditional structure in that matter. That's important. You need a very structured organization, making sure that you can deal with all your guests, with all the requests that they have. But there also has been a very clear hierarchy in the hotels. In the 90s, we used to have a waiting list of people who wanted to work for us. I mean, you cannot imagine that nowadays anymore. What I'm trying to say is we also have to adjust a bit more, or we are adjusting because we have been realizing that already before COVID started, to the expectations and the needs of new generations sitting around in here. And we cannot expect anymore that, I mean, when I started in hotels, it was very normal, for example, that before you were able to do any work at the reception, first you have to do 2 years of night shift, working nights.
That's hard.
Some people like it, some people don't like it. And these kind of introduction programs, they have to be changed. We always have said, you have to be able to work every weekend, otherwise you cannot work with us. We now are more open and saying, okay, so if you cannot work on the Saturdays, let's see then how we organize it around it. So as a company, as an industry, I think in itself, we are trying to be more flexible, more open, and to find solutions that serves for both parties and creating then the win-win situation, so to say. So yes, this will continue.
For sure. Big challenge for sure for the industry.
Yeah.
And it's the name of event, right? We're discussing the challenges for the hospitality industry. And I agree with you that most of us, especially going for hospitality, we should be facing it and we should pay attention to the requirements of the market, right? Yeah. And you have mentioned the COVID-19 moment, and I would like to go in depth a little bit more in describe for us, like first-hand information to our guest. How was COVID-19 in terms of numbers, in terms of revenue management? How is it?
2020 started with a very good January. Economy was doing well. We had a very strong demand in our properties, and I remember that at that time the first news was coming from China with, well, we all know the same stories basically, and surely but slowly it was getting into Germany and to Berlin as well. We always have a big agriculture fair in February, and we were seeing that the number of visitors was declining. And we were getting closer to March, and I will never forget that at some point I was driving home and I was seeing these people full with their cars from the supermarket with toilet paper, and I was like, at that moment I realized, okay, something really weird is going on, so to say. And I flew to South America to go to my family-in-law at that time, and half of the plane at that moment was wearing a mask, and I was completely confused, thinking, what is going on? But 1 week later, all the restrictions came in, and that basically meant business was gone. In particular, at the beginning, nobody knew exactly what was going on. Everybody was staying at home. Nobody was traveling anymore. Flights were cancelled. You could not even fly anymore. So the business was completely gone, completely. with a few exceptions for people for whatever kind of reason that had to travel. So hotels had three options. One, close business. Not that easy because, okay, you have some season hotels, usually in resorts and in holiday destinations that in winter time or in specific times they close. But city hotels, it's a 24-hour operation, they never close. So the most stupid things for hotels that wanted to close. I mean, they even were not able to close the main entrance because there was no lock on it. And some hotels were
We're not
dealing
used
with
to closed hotels, right?
But yes, a lot of the hotels closed. The second option is, let's move on, deal with the request and the demand that we have, because we still need engineering to be there. We still need some staff in the hotel for insurance reasons, for law whatsoever, and then just let's serve the few guests that we have. That's the second option. The third option was, okay, maybe we can get some business from this new demand that has been in there. Some hotels had people who had to stay in quarantine for whatever kind of reason. Other hotels offered their rooms and their facilities to nurses and hospital staff because they had to work so much, and giving them a place where they could recover and staying a bit closer to their work. So some hotels have done that, others closed, and we continued with the minimal business that we had. And most of our staff at that moment was using the Dutch programs, the German program, sorry, so to say, of the Kurzarbeit, and yeah, just waiting what was going to happen because we all had no idea. I remember then in summer we had a bit of a recovery. Summer 2020, there was some leisure travel. Not to compare with before, but demand was a little bit back, and then again in September the new measures of government slammed in and business was again completely dead. So we had a couple of recoveries, but in general, yeah, very, very difficult. In that matter, for IHG, it was great to be, and it is essential, first of all, to be asset light, and I will explain in a bit what that means. Second of all,
sure.
to be a company globally, because what you saw in this pandemic, that in some regions things were recovering. I mean, China at some point they were releasing this restrictions. People were traveling again. The US has been very quick in their recovery. Europe, Germany, way slower. Also, I mean, the support from the government has been great, but at the same time, it also generated that the recovery was taking longer compared to other regions. So in that matter, when Europe was difficult, Asia was better. When the US at the beginning, nothing was happening in there, at least in Europe, in the UK, for example, things were still moving. So as such, IHG could benefit that they were not focused just on one country or in one region. That is very important. I mentioned the franchise and the asset light strategy. Well, franchise means basically that you are opening a restaurant, for example, a McDonald's restaurant, right? You're using, I think that's the most famous example.
The most famous, yeah.
Yeah, you're using their brand,
I
their
use this
products.
in class as well.
Good. So I don't have to go too much in detail for that. Holiday Inns, in the majority, are franchise as well. That means for a company as IHG, we were not owning the buildings. We were not having all the staff in there. And that's the asset light strategy, meaning since the 90s, so long time ago, hotel companies started with that, selling their hotel properties to banks, to investment companies, and concentrating on what we are doing. We are hotel operators and we are running hotels. And that has been very beneficial, and also one of the reasons that hotels could recover pretty quick after the pandemic. Yeah.
Yeah. And what about revenue management? How do you saw the numbers going for you specifically?
Okay, so let's say in 2020, I think we did 25% of our normal revenue.
Wow.
And that was generated basically in 3 months. So March, April, May 2020, you just had in a property of 558 rooms, we had 4 or 5 rooms occupied. That's it. And as I said, summer was a bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Then in the winter time, we got back again to these numbers. Also because we had many months that it was not allowed to travel privately. Only corporate travel was allowed in Germany. So I think 2020 we went back to about 25% of our revenues. Also because the first 2 months were still more or less business as normal, January and February. 2021 was a disaster. We even went back to, I think, 10% of what we were normally doing.
Okay.
2022, first 3 months, very difficult, still the impact of the pandemic. And then, as we called it, the recovery travel kicked in from April onwards. From April until, I would say, mid of July, both private and business, people wanted to travel.
From this year?
Yes.
We can only see recovery this year. Wow, very late. As you said, as mentioned before, very late.
We are late compared to the US, to Asian markets. It depends where, right? But yes, we had a very late recovery. And that at the end of the day, of course, it's the confidence that people have to travel, but it's also the government decisions that and the rules that allow us to run our business as we can or not. And I think 2 learnings that we had, because I'm an old guy, so it can be that I missed something, but before the pandemic, I never heard about Zoom or Microsoft Teams.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
because
this was learning, right?
And nowadays we had to implement, of course, in pandemic, because we could not always be in the office, or if we were in the offices, we're not allowed to share whatsoever. So that has been an essential part of how we have been changing into working. Home office. Hotels and home office didn't exist. And that's now also something that we are implementing for our staff and giving them more flexibility and options to do so. So these are typical things that we before, of course, I was once in a while working home, but the structural way that we have it now, that is really something new. And we have seen, but that's more for Germany specific. Germany has a federal structure, right? So the provinces, the Bundesländer, they are quite independent in their legislation. They, in itself, have a lot of power to do so. And that's what we have seen. That was also very confusing for a company of ISG and for their owners to explain, yeah, but listen, my hotel in Frankfurt, we can still have now tourists. No, you cannot in Berlin, or the other way around. So at some point, you almost needed a full-time job every week to understand which rules were applying and why and whatsoever. If you've seen the amount of checks with corona tests or vaccination proofs and the QR codes, and I mean, you seem to forget very fast, but yeah, that was definitely pretty confusing, in particular because there were so many rules and they were so different. I mean, if you go from here to Potsdam, yeah, that's, what is it, 20 kilometers?
Yeah.
And sometimes the rules were completely different in there.
Yeah, this is a challenge as well. And which leads to my next question. What are the lessons that we learn in this situation? Because from revenue management, we can do from home. But hospitality, can we do from home office? No, right?
Somebody has to cook, right?
Somebody has to cook, somebody has to make beds, somebody has to...
Absolutely.
How
so no,
do
you cannot do everything from home, definitely. I think that what we have learned is that things that used to be completely impossible, or that we would say that would never happen, forget it. I mean, nobody would have expected at some point that worldwide flights were cancelled. Yeah? As I said, I was in South America, I wasn't able to go home anymore, they cancelled all the flights. I mean,
what a problem.
What a problem, terrible. I had to stay a bit longer.
But stay 1 week more.
So at the same time, in that matter, yes, if you cannot bring your operation any longer, okay, then there is no operation. So in that matter, then we cannot continue anymore. But we have become way more efficient in, as I said, the working from home, if it's necessary, if we can do that. Clustering specific departments, making them more efficient. So no, we have definitely learned a lot to be more efficient in that time, because there was no other way around.
Yeah, for sure. Efficiency was in the center, right?
Yeah.
And we were describing a lot about the numbers for revenue management, and I also want to ask some questions about it. And first, let's explain to our guests at home and here, what is revenue management about that we're here talking about all the time, and what is it about?
Okay. Revenue management is basically estimating, but not only estimating, defining the demand for a hotel property on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly base. Why is that so important? A hotel room is a perishable product. If you would have you have a shop and you're selling jeans. People like your jeans, you sell them. If you have sold out the jeans, you buy more, you produce more, you sell more jeans. Mm-hmm. And if it's Saturday, many people are having weekends, are off, and are coming to your shop. And on Monday, it might not be that busy because people are working. But the clothes that you're selling are still there. A hotel room, you cannot sell it tonight twice, right? It's occupied, and the day after, you have to sell it to someone else. So if it's empty tonight, you don't have the chance to compensate it any longer. So that means every day you have to try and intend making sure that you sell as much as possible. Mm-hmm. Now, why is this so important, or why can we do this? Because the price of a hotel room, but also the price for a conference delegate, it's not fixed. It's very flexible. You can price your hotels exactly the way you want, as long as the market is, as long as you anticipate on the market. What I'm trying to say is, for example, the third week of June, depending on the bank holidays in Germany, but usually is a very strong week for corporate meetings. So in that week, we know in an InterContinental hotel, we want to sell a conference with at least 1,000 persons, taking the rooms, taking the meeting rooms, etc. So we anticipate on that and keep our spaces available to sell so. The week before Christmas, in a city hotel, at least in Berlin, no one really wants to stay in a hotel. So the market in Berlin is very, very quiet in these weeks. So then we would accept the few tour groups or leisure groups that are available. We don't want to have these in June because we know there's other business that we need to sell. So basically, by defining the demand, you are accepting or taking the business that is in the best interest of your hotel. And why do we do that? Because a hotel has pretty much a lot of fixed costs, so to say. For example, the InterContinental Berlin, we rent it from the owner. The rent stays the same. Doesn't mm-hmm. matter if you sell all your rooms or not. Mm-hmm. That you still have to pay. Staff-wise, yes, we have some flexible staff, but the majority has a fixed contract. So we have a lot of high fixed costs, and that's why it's so important to optimize every day, every week, every month your revenues and your income in order to cover these costs as much as possible. At the end of the day, in hospitality, we absolutely make money, and it's a very healthy industry. But the percentages in terms of net profit are not the highest compared to other ones. And that's so important that you optimize your revenues in order to reach at least a profitability that you need.
Mm-hmm. And the amount of cost is always high, right?
Yeah.
Imagine you have a building full of rooms and you need to make it as operations. It's a very cost operation.
Yeah. And
what is, in your opinion, the advantages of revenue management and the disadvantages of revenue management?
Mm-hmm. I would almost say, considering the costs, and to make sure that the company is staying healthy and your owners and your shareholders are staying happy as well, revenue management nowadays is a must. The alternative would be, you know what, our rooms cost, I don't know, 150 euros, 200 euros per day, every single day, and that's it. And we don't yield or demand anymore. The problem is if you do that, in some periods, your hotel would be fully booked, but you would have had more potential to sell more. And in other days, nobody's going to book your hotel because you're too expensive. And other hotels have a better deal, people go somewhere else. So you have to adapt to the market. You have to adapt to the demand that is in the city. If you don't do that, That is also a possibility. I mean, if you have a hotel and it's not really required to make a profit or to make a healthy profit and income status, so to say, if it's economical wise not an issue, of course you wouldn't have to apply revenue management. But I don't think there are a lot of properties nowadays that follow that strategy.
Yeah, indeed. In your opinion, what are the most successful requirements, or are the basic requirements, I would say, to have a successful strategy for revenue management?
Yeah. So you have to understand the demand in the city, in the country. That is an essential. Revenue management for me, it's three things. First of all, it's analytics. Getting the data from everywhere, using the data, understanding the demand and the trends in your hotel, in your market, in your competitive environment. But if you are in your office and doing all the analyze and everything, that's one point. But you also have to be able to communicate that to all the stakeholders involved. You have to be able to communicate that to, for example, operations, explaining them that next week or next month is going to be busier because of that and that reason. Otherwise, they are not able to prepare their business and their operations properly. You have to be able to convince a corporate office or a hotel owner or shareholders or a GM, a general manager, about your strategy. If you're not able to convince it and nobody knows what you're doing, it's never going to work. So it's analytics that you have to be able to communicate, and it's leadership. I mean, I'm looking after 4 hotels, and I cannot do that all by myself. So we have a team, and you have to be able to develop your team, to motivate your team, and trying to be not always a nice boss. Well, I try to be a nice boss, but people have to learn from you and have to like it to work with you, so to say. Making sure that also at some point, if I would move on, or somebody else can take that over. So for me, to be successful as a revenue manager, to have a successful strategy, it's about leadership, it's about communication, it's about analytics.
This is a hot tip for our students, right? Analytics, communication, very good. Finally, let's go for the future.
Yeah.
How do you see the future? We have already, from your numbers, a very good 2022. We are very glad for that. What is the future? We cannot predict with this past, right?
It has become very, very difficult to see how future is going to develop. The world has in itself become very unpredictable. Again, pre-pandemic, I knew now exactly next year what was going to happen and when and how it looked like. And I mean, after pandemic, other events have started. We have the terrible crisis in the Ukraine, but of course has a big impact on businesses and economies as well. So yes, it is a very difficult to predict. At the same time, I think we will see a further recovery from 2020 onwards. Not that fast. We will have economic tough times as well, which doesn't have an impact for hotels. Companies, but also private persons will at some point have to save and maybe not spend that much. So, but at the end of the day, and that's what we learned also in pandemic, and I forgot to mention that, at some point with the Zooms and the Microsoft Teams and all the virtual options that you have nowadays to meet, at some point it was questions, do we really need to meet up again in person? But thank God for us, at some point people realized they were fed up with sitting in their offices or at home or whatsoever. People like to travel, they like to meet each other, they like to be close to each other. That's within our human nature, what we learn in there. So our business will be sustainable, our business will continue, and it will stay. I'm 100% convinced about that. How this is going to develop, I would say in the next 2-3 years, I'm not an economist, but I think everybody can understand that 2023, there are too many different or difficult circumstances going on at the moment. But on the long term, yes, we will have a very sustainable and a good industry with all the challenges that we have. But hey, that has always been the case.
Yeah, of course. And we have mentioned all these apps, these new realities for hospitality. Let's talk a little bit about technology. How do you see the innovations for this sector? How, not only for technology, but innovations in general?
Yeah. I mean, I'm repeating what everyone is saying, of course. But just to give a couple of examples, if you are writing an email to Crown Plaza or InterContinental Berlin and you say, hello, I'd like to book a room, we do have our systems in order to send you an offer, but it's a manual environment. And yes, with AI and artificial intelligence, at some point this will be automated and we don't need staff anymore or people anymore to physically send these kind of emails. These systems already exist and they're quite good. For our big hotel companies, the biggest challenge is implementing this in this beautiful IT environment that we have. And beautiful is a bit sarcastic because we have systems that have been there for a very long time. And the world has changed a lot.
Yeah.
Our PMS, RMS, any systems, not that much. So yes, technology is definitely something that we're going to need, also considering the staff that we have. It would be great if my reservation staff doesn't have to send these offers anymore, but they can concentrate on other things. Yeah, so technology in all matters will be essential. If you have this technology, I'm working for one of the biggest hotel operators in the world, and we like to standardize a lot, because if you're going to a Crown Plaza or Holiday Inn in Berlin, or you're going to Paris, or you're going to Rio de Janeiro, they're not that different, right? And what we like to, and I think that is the way moving forward, is that you're getting to a more personalized experience. Can we contact our hundreds, just in my cluster, guests on a daily basis, as in what we can do for them, how we can serve them in the most need? No, we can't, because we don't have the resources to do so. But with technology, we will get closer to that and making sure that you're getting more personalized. The way we communicate, right? Everyone is communicating now completely different than we did 15 years ago. In hotels, we also have changed that, but we could be a bit more advanced. And
for sure.
I mean, if you go now to a room in the InterContinental, there's still this telephone that we don't have in our homes anymore already for many years. And then you pick up the phone and you order room service. I mean, these are all examples that at some point will have to change. We like to see that before your arrival, with whatever kind of app or communication, you say, I like to have the room service at that and that time in my room. And we communicate digitally and not necessarily how we did this in the past 50 years. Yeah.
But as you have mentioned in the beginning, this is a very traditional sector.
Yeah.
Takes some time for things to change. Imagine, we have Zoom meetings now, oh my God, imagine. And then for us to have order something on our room services from a tablet, for example, this will take some time as well, right?
Yeah, and it also depends on the region where you are. For example, online check-in. I mean, it's a bit the same as at the airport, right? Because you have checked in, you have your boarding pass, but still they have to process something in their computer before they let you go to the plane, right? And that's also because airlines are still having these lovely systems that they developed back in the 70s, 80s. For hotels, that is a part of it is the same as well. So online check-in would be great. You don't have to do that standing in the line in the reception anymore. And as a staff, we can focus on other things that we can help our guests with. In Germany, you still have to sign your registration card when you check into a hotel. By law, you have to sign.
Physically, right?
Yes.
Paper.
Because, I'm always making the joke, the police is coming in the evening to pick up the registration cards. Of course they don't.
Yeah, of course.
And why on earth do we need these signatures still then? And that is also what, in particular, bigger companies as IHG and the Marriott and the Hilton of the world have to lobby and discuss and bring these things up also with German authorities, enabling us moving on with these matters.
Very good. Safe, our job as a revenue management is safe with technology or not? I think so.
It is safe, but it will change, and it has to change.
It needs to change.
It needs to change. The funny thing is, because we have the Duettos and the IDs and the Easy RMS, right? You have all these revenue management systems that basically can do the pricing, defining the demand. They completely collapsed in the pandemic. They didn't understand their own algorithms anymore, and that also indicated like, wow, so they were not that advanced as we all thought. But hey, come on, at the end of the day, we are not working for NASA or some kind of a complicated industry, right? It should be able that you get a system that is defining that, so yes. But I'm convinced we will always have to be able to explain why this smart system application or whatsoever is doing the decisions or the recommendations as we speak. Because our owners and our shareholders will not accept. So why has this decision been taken? Well, the computer told us so. Yeah, there has to be a strategy and a logical behind.
And a person behind, right?
And a person behind to follow that and making sure that everything is going into the right direction. But definitely, we at some point have to move away. We are on good track, but still, we're not there yet. I'm still doing a lot of things in Microsoft Excel.
Okay. Good to know.
And why am I doing that? Because the other applications and support that I have do not give it to me, so I have to do it myself.
Okay, very good. Mr. Laarmans, I have learned a lot with you today. And I usually take these 20 minutes in the last hour of our section for students to learn with you. It's direct as well.
Okay.
So guys, now it's on you. You have any questions? Yep. One moment, because we need the microphone. Just one moment, okay? You already know. He's from movie section, so he knows already.
I want to ask you that what kind of strategy, like knowledge is not mastery, and there is also big hotel groups like you. What kind of strategy makes you different than others in reviews or hospitality industry? How you can manage your business with your competitors?
Very good.
Understanding your market, understanding the needs of your clients, anticipate. So, for example, if you know in specific periods the demand for these corporate meetings is there, you would not necessarily sell different business. If you understand, for example, next year, no, in 2 years, there's the European Football Cup is in Germany, and Berlin has been selected as one of the cities where they will play in the Olympic Stadium. I think it's a group game, it's a quarterfinal, and it's a final. There's a lot of demand and a lot of potential in these periods to do so. So you have to make sure, it sounds so logical, but a lot of hotels oversee it. When is the final? Okay, so how much money can we make out of this final? Because these are the days, that's the job of a revenue manager, make the best out of it. So what are you going to do then? Okay, when did we have the last time a similar event of this? 2015, the Champions League final. I'm getting a bit anyway, big football game in Olympic Stadium was there. So you look then, back in 2015, okay, what was the rates, average rates, occupancies during these days? Is it only the match day, or is it also the day before? Anything else? Yes, 2006 was the last time that the World Cup was in Germany. How was the city doing at that time? So trying to think in advance, using the data that you need to have and apply that accordingly. I think that is making the difference. Is it rocket science? Do you have to be extremely smart? Not really. It is also an experience job that at some point you understand how that works.
You have this discussion in class as well, right? Is it science? Is it art? Is it management? We don't know the answers, but we'll get there. We try to predict as much as we can.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your question.
Thank you very much.
And next one.
Hi, thank you for being here. So you mentioned about the online check-in, about the technology. And my question is, how do you think this is going to happen for the luxury industry? Do you think this meets the guest expectation in this case?
Absolutely, it does. I think a good example is the W hotels. Used to be Starwood, now from Marriott. They were one of the first. These hotels, it's 5-star luxury, and they gave the opportunity to do the online check-in, and with a QR on your cell phone, that was your room key. You could say it's cheap, right? It's not really, but it doesn't mean that the service is not there anymore. It still is. You still arrive in the lobby, and staff is there to welcome you, to help you with any other things that you can do. But this step is already saving some time and avoiding, people standing in line for any check-in. So technology should enable us to give even a better service and a better luxury experience than we are doing so far. Technology will not, in particular not in 5-star luxury hotels, replace staff, absolutely not. But we will be able to focus more on the service and on the quality that we like to provide.
Especially, and if I can make a comment, because the replacement is going for the bureaucracy, right? For the papers, for the moment that is not about this, the luxury is not there. Actually, we want to avoid this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, if Mr. and Mrs. Schmidt aus Bavaria are coming and they have been traveling to Berlin 30 years and they want to sit at the desk and they want to have their print and they want to sign it and the room key and have the absolutely. Yeah, not a problem at all. But I think that future generations not necessarily would like to do that anymore. And that is what it's all about. No? Adapt to your guests' expectations and needs.
Good question. Thank you very much.
Working with the hospitality industry from past 7 years. As you mentioned, I work for Marriott's. What does InterContinental is different from other hotels in profession?
From other hotel companies, or so what is making IG or InterContinental Hotel Group making them unique, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I think the InterContinental brand in itself is unique, since it was one of the first ones that was starting to go into destinations, talking about years of 50s, 60s, to destinations that basically nobody had been there before, from the US or from Europe. And creating these hotels enabled people to fly and to travel there. IHG at that time also developed the first Lovely Holidex CRS system, which was basically the first reservation system that has been there. That's great, and we have to develop that further, making sure that it's staying state of the art. So what I'm trying to say is we are a very experienced hotel company, brands in different, from 3 to 5-star luxuries. And with that experience, also the knowledge to provide exactly what we need from our guests. What would be the difference from Marriott? Marriott is the biggest hotel group in the world, which has been the Starwood and the Marriott hotels together. Also a great company, very organized, but they are still finding their way with this huge number of brands and hotels at the moment to structure and to basically set up their new company. And that has been taking them years, and it will stay a bit longer as such. Yeah, they're doing a great job, and I'm just saying they grew so fast with that takeover from Starwood. IG is also wants to grow, but they do it in a bit of a slower pace, as for example the Marriott has been doing. Yeah.
And another question from my side, it would be, as belonging to the student council, we have the student council team. If you want to suggest someone to you, or if you want someone to work, one of our students with you, what are the qualities or you might find, or which background would you might find in one of the students of us? So,
if I understand the question correctly, what would be the qualities or the skills for a student to work with us?
Yes.
In any position or any specific? Or
in the revenue
in
management.
Revenue management. Yeah. You have to like numbers. You don't have to be the Excel guru and being able to make all the pivots and macros and whatsoever. No, that's not necessary. But if you're like, numbers, no, it's not. Sorry, no. You have to do the analytics.
I completely agree with you.
But we don't need, I mean, let's put it that way. 15, 20 years ago, we had the revenue nerds, as they call them in the hotel, sitting in their cave, as we said, doing complicated Excel calculations and whatsoever. No, that is not what we need. We have systems nowadays that can do these calculation analyses. But as I said, I need someone who can understand the numbers, is able to communicate them, and is able to lead the team at some point. I think these are the most important requirements. Yeah.
Thank you. Very good. The next one, please tell your names before. Hello, my name.
Hi, my name is Lucas. Thank you so much for being here. I want to explore about this question about the qualities that you are looking for employees. Regarding the knowledge in German, the knowledge for programming language, maybe Python, because you work a lot with data, and the experience in the field of a hotel.
Yeah.
Do you look for persons with that experience, with that knowledge, or you see that's not so important for working the revenue management?
German is not relevant. Yes, we are in Berlin, we are in Germany, but we are in an international company where the language is, the main communication language is English. So German is not needed. More important is English in that matter. Sorry, second part of your question was the experience that you would have to have before. It helps, and it's important that it's either with front desk or with reservation experience, at least you have an understanding how these systems are working. If we're getting a bit more in the details of rate codes, market segmentations, that there is some understanding how that is working. I also I've worked with revenue executives that didn't have that background, but then I let them work a couple of months in reservation just to get that feeling. So you need a bit of a feeling with hotels, with operations, in order to also understand some challenges that your decisions can impact.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And regarding the programming language, for example, Python, do you think it's necessary to know, or it's a plus?
It would be a plus, but at the end of the day, I need someone who has the analytic interest, and systems in itself, we will teach you. It's great if you have it because you have a sense for it, but if not, it's for me not essential because again, we need people willing to learn and to be motivated, and all other systems we will teach you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you
Yep,
so much.
I understand the background of your question, and there is no international program for revenue management. Every company, they have their own, especially even InterContinental, they have different revenue management systems.
Yeah.
So that's why Mr. Laarmans is a cluster revenue management, because then we manage the cluster, and then we decide which system we are going to use, how we are going to manage. That is also very important to mention, that maybe you know how to make revenue management here, but then you need to learn how to do it here in Berlin, for example.
Yeah, actually, I work for Crown Plaza, so I am in the cluster, in the same cluster.
Ah, nice.
Good.
You see? Your colleague. Thank you very much. Next.
Hi, my name is Kate Betts. Mr. Laarmans, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
My question is, you spoke at length about how the pandemic had an impact on the hospitality industry, but you failed to mention how the current energy crisis, which is being caused by the Russia-Ukraine war, has affected the revenue streams in the hospitality industry.
Very good question. End of 2021, we were making the budget and the revenue and costs estimations for 2022. And at that time we realized, whoa, energy prices have gone up with 100%. So before the crisis in Ukraine started, prices have been already going up enormously. And of course, after that, it has become more and more. For us, that was also one of the reasons that we say, I mean, in Berlin, they always say Berlin has been poor but sexy, yeah? I think it was an expression of the former major who came with that one. But anyway,
Exactly.
and that also was reflected in our ADRs.
Yes.
Our average room rate compared to London, compared to Paris, compared to Amsterdam, compared to, well, not talking about Singapore, New York, etc.
It's forget.
Yes. Why is that? Normally a capital, all the corporate offices are located there, and everything is all business is very much focused on the capital, Paris, London, for example. In Germany, due to its history, it's different. Yeah, we have a lot of corporate offices and industries in the south, in the west, in Hamburg, and we have here the government, and we have tourism, and we have conferences. And tourism is more sensitive, more price sensitive than business, because business people, they have to go to that meeting or to that event, yeah, and they have to pay 400 euros. They pay the 400 euros because they are told to do so, and they will just charge the cost to their boss or to their client. Yeah, that's how it works. So at some point in the pandemic, we already realized that with staff costs going up and then the energy on top, that okay, fine, we have to develop our prices, and we cannot go back anymore to the levels that we used to have, because that's no longer sustainable. And the energy part, for example, I mean, I don't think we'll ever go back to the price levels that we used to have before. It is going to be a different ball game. So yeah, absolutely, very good point that we are looking at on a monthly base, because a lot of companies have the variable contracts. So every month it's changing, and that is also an issue that we have to work on in the future, because you cannot plan your business if you don't know how much your costs are going to be. Yeah. And we are, in that matter, it has an impact. It's a lot of money, but you can imagine all these lovely spas with all their saunas and everything, how much the impact is in there. So yeah, that's absolutely a challenge that we did not cover yet for the future years.
Yeah, very good, very good.
Thank you, sir.
Another challenge.
Sure.
Here, please.
Ruud, I hope I can call you this because we've met already before.
Sure.
I'm Michael, Career Service Manager. I've been reading some statistics about the remote work recently, and 16% of all companies globally now only operate remotely. The market for remote work has grown 45% in the last 5 years, so even before pandemic. I imagine that this has got an impact on the hospitality industry, and a quite significant part of your clients are the corporate clients. So have you seen this happen really? And if so, what have you been doing to address this shortfall?
Yeah, corporate travel, so the traditional individual corporate clients visiting Berlin for its meeting or whatever kind of reason, it almost disappeared in the pandemic. It did come back, but not at the levels that we have seen before. At the same time, for example, in IHG, we also have an IHG revenue service team that are doing revenue management for our hotels. They're all home-based. I work with them as well. And they tell me, you know, if I've been the whole week at home or a couple of weeks, I need to get out. I need to travel. I need to do different things. So home-based working is also generating that people like to travel at some point. Their teams, they meet up every 2 months where they do travel, where they would not have been done when they were all based on property. So home office, home-based working definitely has an impact, but we do see other opportunities in other ways that are coming back. Yeah. But I agree with you. The traditional Tuesday to Thursday corporate traveler doing a meeting, also now with Zoom or with Microsoft Teams, yes, that has changed significantly. Absolutely.
Thank you. Any other question? Oh God, look at you, you are very popular today. Let's start from here, and then we go back, okay?
Hi, my name is Sonu Kumar. I have a question. How do you or this industry generate money or revenue from unoccupied rooms? Do you reduce the price of the room, or do you have any other strategy or plan to make generate more revenue on unoccupied rooms?
What we did in the pandemic is we have been offering more day use packages, which is usually day use is for airport hotels. People are waiting for a flight, need to change, need to take a shower. And we have seen that this is working pretty well because people do need an office, or people do need a room for a couple of hours. In particular, in the pandemic, this worked out pretty well. So that's just a specific example. But in general, making sure you don't have the empty rooms is look ahead. And if you know that there's low demands at that point, use the segments or use the accounts or the sources that can bring you that business. So if you know in the second part of July, the only thing we have in Berlin is leisure. Make sure that you have the contracts with the tour operators. Make sure that you have the right settings and promotions with OTAs, with Booking.com, with Expedia. As sales and marketing to look for other opportunities. Great, there's a concert in the Olympic Stadium. Is there anything we can do? Who is performing? Is there any crew interested? So if you would say next week, I have still 100 rooms empty, you're too late. You really have to try in advance and that's why it's so important to define and understand the demand in order to avoid that. But hey, at the end of the day, rooms unoccupied, you cannot avoid it, will always be the case.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Now here.
I want to ask about the personalization that you mentioned. What kind of personalizations you talk about? Like, it's like a physically changing. For example, people like to spend the time with the people like them. Are you gonna change the hotels like a physically student hotel, business people hotel, or tourism hotel, or what do you think about? For example, do you also care about the city experience? For example, can you also personalize with digital marketing a trip, different trips, different suggestions to your customers? Can you please open the personalization? What kind of strategy do you have, or do you have some plans? We can also, if it's secret, we can also talk later. Competitors maybe can watch.
It's okay.
Thank you.
We have a lot of plans, and I see a lot of potential. We have not developed that so far. I have to be as open as we are. Yeah, we are still, as I said, in the reopening after the pandemic, making sure our business is up and running. Personalization is basically coming from the casino industry. In casinos, they have an enormous CRM base, so customer relation management base of their clients. They know exactly what their clients spend and where they spend it. They are very, very advanced in that matter. And they, with these data, approach their guests for their specific promotions or packages that they can offer them. Now, casino industry, we have to be careful, we have to understand that it is a different business. In casinos, if you like it or not, but they want you to spend in the casino. And the hotels are being used in the restaurants to give them a good time. So the suites that I have to sell in the region in order to make sure that we reach our revenues, in casinos they use them to attract the guests to come. Give the suite for a very low price or give them almost for free, as long as the guy is going to play poker or blackjack or whatsoever again. But casinos have been very, very good in knowing who are our customers, where are they from, what's important, what do they eat, what do they drink, etc., etc. Now, can I do that in a Holiday Inn? For all my guests that are coming, forget it, not going to happen. Can we do it in the regions where people are paying 400 or 500 euros? Yes, you can. And do I have the resources now to contact them all, asking them? For one part, we already do that. But with the artificial intelligence, where it's easier for us, in combination with the data that we have from the guests, to approach them, yes, that's what I see in future. So at some point, it will be more in luxury where you can really do that. are we going to have a personalized experience for every single guest from our Holiday Inn Express up to our regions? No, that's never going to fly. Well, who knows, but not in the next 50 to 100 years, let's put it that way. I hope that answered your question.
For the physical changes, do you think something like that? And for the physical changes, maybe this helps you to make better personalization to change the hotel as a physically. For example, when you build a building, if you are building a family building, you shouldn't put one-room apartment in between a three-room apartment, for example, as a flat. Sorry. Are you also thinking about physically change the hotels, because now you are hosting business people here who can meet each other also, even if just for holiday, not for conference. Student hotels we have in Berlin, for example.
Yeah.
I don't know who own, but like the student hotel.
Yeah.
As you know. That's the last. Thank you.
Yeah, the interesting part is, of course, that if you, for example, the Holiday Inn Express has a very good family concept. So they have a lot of family rooms. Family rooms in Berlin are, in the summer, 40% of the demand is family demand. So essential to have. However, in September, families, kids are back to school, and you need business. So you need also to have a product that is agile and being able to adapt it accordingly. So then, yes, you do have family rooms available. You do have specific products or things that you adapt to for leisure guests, for tourists, or maybe for business people. But at the same time, we will still always use our rooms for different customers, because it depends on the season and then the periods when they are coming. Yeah, and you have to find a solution in there in between.
Excellent. Excellent. Very good. And Matt?
I've seen a lot of people joining the hospitality industry and gradually leaving the hospitality industry. But after working for 15 to 20 years, what is your experience and what makes you keep going and working for the hospitality industry?
Well, sometimes I wonder myself as well.
Same here.
This is a good question. This is a personal one.
I like, for some reason, a fully operating hotel. That it's making my day when an InterContinental is having a dinner for 800 persons. At the same time, the spa is full with people, the restaurant is fully booked, we still have 200 arrivals to go, the cars are everywhere, everyone is busy, and you have this atmosphere in the hotel. It's like an important football game or sport game is going to happen. And everyone is concentrated and a bit excited and nervous and trying to make it all happen. And after that week or after that day or that night, everything went well, it's a great team performance. And I think that's making me happy working for hospitality and keeping me in there. Do we have the best employee benefits compared to industries? No, we don't. As simple as that. Do we have to work in weekends? Yes, we do. Do I have a job of 38 hours a week? No, I don't. But at the end of the day, you have to do something that makes you happy. And that's why I'm still in hospitality. Yeah.
Very good question. Very good answer. Any other question? Here? Thank you very much.
So hi, I'm Camelia, and I was wondering, after the recovery of COVID, loyal customers did end up coming eventually, but also, was that also an opportunity to kind of have a new clientele? Because after COVID, I realized that a lot of people became very germophobic, like did not want to be with a lot of people, so maybe they, even if before they didn't think that they could afford or would want to pay that amount of money for like a room, now they would, since they wouldn't be really next to other people or not.
Mhm.
So was that the case?
We lost regular guests, absolutely, for the reasons that you mentioned, that they did not want to travel anymore, or they stay now in apartments because they feel safer to be in an apartment. At the same time, most of them did come back. We at some point really thought we're going to lose everyone, because the world is going to change and we have a new reality and it's never coming back. But thank God, at some point, people wanted to meet up again and wanted to come together and experience cities, concerts, business meetings and whatsoever. Have we made up new businesses? We do see now that also thanks to the flexibility in working, yes, people do book now arriving on a Thursday for a longer weekend. They work the Thursday and then spend the weekend in the city. So yes, in that matter, things have changed, and there we have to also be very much focused and flexible in that matter. I mean, you wouldn't believe it, but not every hotel before COVID was having proper Wi-Fi. There were still hotels that you had Wi-Fi, but there was just this corner or maybe these couple of rooms where the reach was not 100%. It sounds so silly, but I mean, nowadays it was already as such, but we got confirmed by that by now for 100% for sure. You need hot water, you need electricity, and you need Wi-Fi. Otherwise, you cannot operate a hotel anymore.
Very good. Thank you. Another question? Okay. So, now to finish up, I have one question for you, okay? That goes in direction of your question. Because we're having a discussion about what are the conditions to work with you, or what would be the requirements. But let's talk about InterContinental Group in general, and which touches my first question about, one of my first questions about the culture of the organization and everything. But maybe I want to work in marketing, right? Maybe I don't want to work specifically with revenue management.
Sure.
And then I was thinking the head of my student, what are the qualifications in case I want to work there in marketing or human resources or even IT? What will be the common characteristics that InterContinental is asking for the employees?
We are looking for profiles for willing to learn, of course, but also being adaptive and some kind of flexibility. If you're going to work in human resources or marketing or whatsoever, a plan has been made, but sometimes business or things can just happen that a day is a bit different than you would have expected as such. And this flexibility and this capability to adapt, that is very important. System-wise or having the exact right experience, it's for us not essential. We also see it a lot that people have been working a long time in operations and then they move into human resources or marketing or in other positions. So it's really for us the personality, the profile, the willingness really to adapt and to work in our team. And as I said, doesn't matter, English is essential, and for the rest, of course, you need a visa because otherwise it's getting a bit difficult here. But we like to work with international cultures and people from everywhere.
Yeah, very good. This is about hospitality as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And as a short story for you, when I was working as a revenue manager, I have no idea, or I lost the count of the amount of beds I was preparing, the amount of toilets I was cleaning, because you were telling this story reminds me of a lot of stories as well. This is hospitality, guys. That's the good and the bad side of hospitality. Mr. Laarmans, thank you very much for being here with me today. It was a very enjoyable time. And thank you everyone for this Café Scientifique event, and see you next time. Okay?
Thank you guys.